G.I. Joe, new millennium, suicide bomber by way, soon to be instinctual back throw. Another dollar plus the 20.
Yeah, all right, yo, welcome back. Secret House Against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations. Today we are back with another conversation with a music artist. We're here with Shemar. Peace.
All right, peace.
Art, you are a New York-based MC, poet, producer, artist that's been leveling up the last several years. We reviewed your project February of last year, Sunscreen, with the collaborative project with Child Actor, which I highly recommend people go back to check out on our channel, but primarily just check out the album. That's where I started becoming familiar with your work. You collaborate with so many of the interesting, dope, and talented artists in New York. Some of people who we've reviewed on the channel and even interviewed: Sun Mundi, Miles Cook, Sasko, Big Flowers, Bloom Cycle, Hester Valentine, Money for Water, as well as doing some shows with some of the bigger names in the underground hip hop community, such as like Sketch 185. I'm super glad to sit down and talk to you, family. And we're basically doing this on like the eve of the release of your new project, Emerge NC, which drops on May 2nd. Congratulations.
Much love. I'm grateful. That was sick. Thank you.
How you doing, fam?
I'm doing good. This is a crazy moment for me. I remember like watching the first Secret. I vividly remember the first time I watched Secret House because I was like in Philly, like on a like spring break type trip, and it was like the Atheos review.
Oh my
I
God.
was
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is an experience. But this is fire. But yeah, so I'm happy to be
Yeah,
here.
that one, I think a lot of people tapped into us for that. That's like one of the bigger artists that usually gets attention on our shows, especially, Billy Woods. And that was back when El Spade was on the show. And El
Mhm.
Spade's a bit of an outsider when it comes to the more left of field hip hop and also left field politics. He calls himself
Mhm.
a capitalist, but I'm like, yo, where's the capital though?
Yeah.
And that's my brother for life. He's out in Cali now, or excuse me, in the States now. But yeah, man, thank you. You've been a big supporter of our channel. You're one of the first people that showed up in our Discord, and you've hipped us to so many artists that we have grown to love and appreciate, and people who we may have taken longer to get familiar with if it wasn't for you. And I just want to thank you for all your support and just being a dope person in the community, fam.
No, all love. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah. Feelings
Yeah.
mutual.
I'm noticing you got the bonnet on. I was gonna have my bonnet on this morning too, but I was like, nah. But what, did you cut
Mm.
off all your locks?
Yeah, I cut it off a couple months ago, like maybe like last October. I had them for like over 5 years. It was just time. I'm in a
Okay.
different phase of life, but I'm still like regrowing out my hair. So, so it feels weird not even though I don't need to really. It just feels weird. So I'm like I come in bonnet on, word.
Yeah. I just, I put in the leave-in joint to get my hair glistening. So, I gotta wear the bonnet when I sleep. And it's summer,
Hmm.
so I'll be having my hair out more often. But yeah, yo, it's really nice to do an immediate kind of
Yeah.
conversation with you, as opposed to just the text that we've been doing for the last year or so. um
Mhm.
Now I also, let me take a moment because I mentioned Sketch. I want to give a shout out to Sketch. I know he's going through some health issues right now,
Yeah.
and I thought about making a video to kind of bring awareness and get some money to him, but I also noticed that he didn't have like a GoFundMe going. So
Mhm.
I feel like, let me just let him. If he does that, then we'll put some love on it. But yeah, I hope he gets healthy. I had another homie who had kidney issues and needed a kidney transplant, and that was like 15 years ago. He's still alive and well, so I believe
Mhm.
Sketch will persevere and get through this one too. He's one of the most incredible voices that we have in the community, and as an artist, just unparalleled. So shout out to
Mm,
Sketch.
yeah.
Now, I know you got the new album coming out, and I do want to get to that and talk
Mhm.
about that. But I thought we would start elsewhere, and and talk about the album a little bit more towards the end of the discussion. I like to take
Sure.
these opportunities when I'm face to face with an artist to kind of get to know them as I would if we were in a coffee shop, but also like
Mhm.
half interviewish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, where are you from?
I'm from Brooklyn, East New York specifically. Born there, raised there, even left. Yeah,
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
power. Yeah, so you're a New York cat. That's what's up.
Mhm.
I know you're always doing shows out there in New York, but a lot of transplants too in Brooklyn these
No,
days. So
absolutely.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm from here.
He probably like the rest of us probably got a lot of family from the South and all over the
Yep,
place. But yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Carolinas on my mom's side, and then my dad's side's more like based in a lot of them based in like Alabama.
Okay. Yeah, my stepdad, well, my father was born in a reservation, the Seminole Reservation in in Florida, but he grew up in New Jersey. Uh and my stepdad, he's from Florida, the Panhandle, so basically Georgia for him. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, no doubt, no doubt. And I guess shoot, we'll move right past into that. Like, how did you get started with hip hop and rap music?
Um, really through my dad. Um, Growing up, he'd play like, a lot of like rap in the car, but it'd be like for a long time, it was like he tried to play like 90s shit, and my brain was just like, no, like, woo, get it away. I remember the first time I heard Illmatic because I thought it was ass.
Oh my God.
But I was like a little like dickhead middle schooler or whatever.
Okay.
But it was like where we would agree would be like I fuck with Jay-Z, like the Jay-Z that he would play. Um, this was like around like my earliest memories of Jay-Z are like Magna Carta, Holy Grail, which now I listen back to and I'm like, oh, this is some mid. But there's like nostalgia. I kind of like all of the Jay-Z projects that people are thinking like hella mid slash ass. I'm like, there's some nostalgia there. Like Kingdom
Yeah.
Come. I fucking love Kingdom Come.
Yo,
But
me
that's
and you
because my
both.
dad would, yeah,
That
my
was
dad would play
yeah.
that all the time.
I was surprised at
Yeah,
I was surprised at the kind of attention that Kingdom Come was getting when it came out, because I was like, yo, did y'all listen to the same album as me? Because this got some,
no, that shit
even the
hard.
first track is like, yo, this is amazing. Like, what are y'all
Yeah,
on? But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's not a diss song, it's a real song. Yeah, that joint is yeah.
But yeah, a lot of that. A lot of like older Kanye, like first three albums, My Beautiful Dark. You just like, yeah, the traditional good hip hop that's still more traditional because he grew up in like the 90s and shit like that. My mom was a lot more into like R&B and B and like more melodic things. So it was just like, and then me and my brother, we were like radio. Soldier
Right,
Boy, word.
right,
So
right.
it's like that's the perfect middle ground for
That,
everyone. And then like
that
that developed into like Kendrick Lamar when like Good Kid, Mad City dropped to Pimp a Butterfly. So it was like that's yeah, just like being in the car and then whatever my dad would play, and then like slowly branching off into like my own stuff.
Right. A lot of old heads like myself, they like to think of themselves as like having better musical taste. But the fact of the matter is most of those cats was getting their shit off the radio, just like every subsequent generation up until maybe around now, where the radio is not
Yeah.
so much a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I snapped out of being a mainstream type of music guy earlier because I feel like I'm that last generation of four element kids. I graduated in 2001, and it was kind of like right after the Telecommunications Act. It was right as this kind of split in hip hop was coming, where Bone Thugs rapping about the first of the month was not going to do it for cats. It was more Cash Money, No Limit happening. And yeah, like, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2020.
Wow,
Yeah.
youth. Okay. So like me and your
Yeah.
dad are like me and your dad are like the same generation.
Yeah.
Okay, power. Yeah,
Mhm.
man. It's really interesting to see because I guess it happens the same way. It's like I got into weird hip hop music and then I started making weird hip hop music. But I actually was like listening to Nas on the radio and early Jay-Z
Mm.
on the radio too. Um, so that's really interesting. When did you decide to like start making music?
I had like a little stint my senior year. Because my best friend, Birding McCaw, he does like art for people. He did like the Samundi cover for our EP, the Delete Glitch, Head Size, my first album. But he would rap, and I remember we became friends because our school had a talent show, and he was like he knew at that time I was like Doom and like Denzel Curry, and I was like just getting into Ka, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I know you're really into hip hop. Do you want to like, yeah, I want to do this for the talent show. Do you want to like hear what I'm doing and like help me out?" And I was like, word. And he like spit for me. And he had like the craziest flow. He's always had a crazy flow. I was like, man, your flow is crazy, but you aren't saying shit. And this was back when I wasn't saying shit. You know, it was high school,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, and then like he like just dedicated more time into that. And then it was like we would get like tight beats off YouTube, and at a certain point, it was kind of like, well, I don't want my best friend rapping on tight beats, and I'm kind of interested
Okay.
in making beats. So it was like I'm gonna learn how to make beats. So this was probably like 20, really like COVID was when I really like sat down and like I'm going to learn how to make beats, and I got like an SP 404, and I started making beats off of that. Eventually got Ableton, and then also like I started making beats and slowly getting to a point where I was like, okay, I think I'm like okay at making beats now. But this is when Burning McCaw was like writing a lot less and more so focused on like visual arts because that's what he's going to school for. So it was like I have all of these beats and I have severe anxiety, so I don't want to just hit up rappers. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
start rapping, you know. So here we
Okay.
are.
So you started first primarily as a producer then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like writing on the side. I've been like writing poems for like basically since I started high school. And I've always had an interest in like doing the poetry over the beats in like quirky way and like well, quirky, subjective, but like Gil Scott Heron, more mother, but it just didn't pan out that way. But yeah.
Sure. Well, your writing reminds me of a few different approaches, like MC wise and poetry wise. So, um, did you start writing poetry and like spoken word stuff before you started writing raps?
Yeah, yeah, like way before. I remember I don't even remember when I started writing. I think it was because like okay, so like Flower Boy from Tyler the Creator came out, and I was like, "Word, this is the greatest album ever. This is fucking nuts." It's like I'm gonna start rapping, and I wrote a rap, and I fucking hated it. I was like, I'm gonna start like writing poetry and like become a good poet, and then maybe I'll start rapping. But I just like fell in love with poetry. It was like I don't even want to rap. I don't even want to rhyme. I just want to, I just want to write poems because I enjoy writing poems. Even like I wouldn't even call like the poems I was writing like spoken word in the real traditional sense. I was in a program called Urban Word. It's based in NYC, and they're like mainly focused on like spoken word. And I like go there, but like for writing tips. So it's like they would like they would fuck with me as a person, but it's like I'm not trying to be boisterous and loud. I'm just trying to like write in the book and like write. My goal writing wise is like I want every sentence to be like the best sentence ever. So it was really like traditional. Like you have to read this to like really grasp it type thing. That's what I was interested in. And I guess like to an extent I still am. I've just like figured out how to also say it, you know?
Oh, that's really dope. Like, we didn't have programs like that when I was growing up or where I was at. But I do kind of see a lot of that through line of like black youth getting into poetry and then transitioning into turning it into like hip hop. I think that's
Mhm.
what like No Name, for
Yeah.
example, did. She comes from like a spoken word background as well as like Nappy Nina. I
Mhm.
think Nappy Nina was also into spoken word poetry, and I see that lineage. But I imagine people did that too when I was a youth, but we just didn't have that type of outreach. I didn't get into poetry until I was like 19 or 20, and now I read, like, my reading habits are like theory, poetry, and comic books, and
Mhm.
sprinkle in articles, or what I mean, like whatever is on the internet. But yeah, like in terms of your writing, it's fairly abstract and it's metered to match beats, but it can also be metered as like written poetry, and not in
Yeah.
that kind of I don't know how the spoken word community is really doing now. Most of the poets I listen to are not so cliche with that old spoken word style, you know what I
I know
mean?
what you're talking about.
But like Rudy Francisco is he's spoken word bombing, but he's also writing, you
Yeah.
know. But when it comes to poetry being over beats, Amiri Baraka did that. The Beat
Mhm.
Poets, a variety of different poets did that. So I see how that's More Mother, for example. I see how that's starting to become more commonplace. And for some reason, it always just lands in like the hip hop or jazz genre. And
Yeah.
yeah, your writing reminds me of quite a few poets and writers. Amiri Baraka also you
Oh, the
sampled
goat.
was sampled on your collab with um with Child Actor, and I was proud of myself because I was like, oh yeah, that's Amiri Baraka. I know that voice, you know, I know that anywhere.
Yeah.
But like Henry Dumas,
My
like
favorite
so
poet.
oh word okay
Yeah.
power yeah okay so in this program like was it primarily a like a black kids. I don't know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
demographic of Brooklyn these days, but yeah.
Nah, yeah, I mean, well, New York in general is like super diverse, and that's like the generic thing to say, but it's also like dead
Yeah.
ass the truth. Like it's like
Yeah.
everyone is
Right.
here type thing. And I think Urban Word like accurately reflected that, but mainly like, inner city people, regardless of like race, gender identity, whatever. It was a melting pot. It was a reflection of the city. It was just like you came if you were in urban where you probably came from some dirt on some level. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I'm from the upper west side. It's just like
You're
scoping
right.
out the poor people or whatever,
Yeah, this is an ethnographic journey for me where I'm just reading the drums and looking at all the
Yeah,
little colored people doing shit and the gay
yeah.
people
Far from
and
that.
the nonsense people. Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
that's fire. One of the things that I heard about that I wasn't familiar with when we did the recording for Sunscreen is that you also had a like a poetry book that accompanied that project or was supposed to
Yeah.
be simpatico like with that. Where did you release that? Is that just online or is it like a physical
Um,
copy?
I just made like a bunch of physicals of it. Basically, what happened with that was Child Actor and I, we were just talking. This was probably like I'm trying to think when. Maybe, like, I think maybe the project was recorded, maybe it was mixed at that point, but, like, the final takes were probably done. I think we were just, like, talking about, like, the process of the project, and for that project in particular, like, it reminded me of my first project when I was, like, making the transition. A lot of, like, the lines on my first EP were just, like, recent poems I wrote and then just reworking things. And then I kind of stopped doing that for a little bit with Sunscreen. I kind of went back to that. There's a couple lines on Sunscreen that's just like, oh, this is pulled from a poem I wrote in 2021 because I'm just like thinking about that line again and I want to use it here. So I was telling Child Actor about that. And then he was just like, oh, it'd be cool to like do a little chapbook or something. And I've always wanted to have a chapbook. Like that's like the poetry dream, Just like, yeah, I have a
Yeah.
thing. This is my thing. So I made like maybe like 30 copies, and this was when Sasko and I were like going around like the East Coast doing the shows for his album last year. And I just like, yeah, I have copies of the show, give it to people, and things like that. But also if you buy it on Bandcamp, then one of the download bonuses, it has the chapbook. And it's just like poems from like 2020 to 2022 that either like inspired lines from Sunscreen or like kind of just remind me of Sunscreen in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, so just like
Oh shit. You know, I
I
probably
don't know.
got
It
that then. I'm pretty sure I
yeah, if
bought it
you
on Bandcamp. I just think I didn't look at like the other things. Maybe like I thought it was a cover or just like a
yeah, it should be
EPK
there.
type of thing. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I gotta check out my files for. Hopefully I didn't delete it, but I'll go back and
Yeah,
check it out. But yeah, well, like as you know, in our Discord, we've got the little rhinoceros boom slang room, and I like to
yeah,
post, poems and stuff in there and just any uses of language. I'm such a big fan of language and
mhm,
just everything about it. Language is a virus, and I love to pull meaning that even perhaps the writer is not intending. and that's a bit a part of like I don't rap anymore. I only rap with like immediacy. Like I only
Yeah.
freestyle, and I only like write
Mhm.
as like, oh, there's a line in my head or something, and I'll write it
Yeah.
down, and it's kind of like a journal for me. But those often get recycled in freestyles at times, but usually I like to keep it off of the head. What is
Mhm.
your writing process when it comes to writing rap music? Do you listen to the
Um,
beat? Or also, that's a question
yeah.
from the Discord. Shout out to Claire's, our Cameroonian brother out there bombing.
Word. Yeah.
But yeah, he wanted to know about your writing process. Let's start with rap and then circle back to
Yeah.
poetry on that.
I mean, it's kind of not different. It's pretty much the same process. Kind of similar to you, where it's like I have a note, a specific note on my phone. It's called Poem Thoughts, and then it's like I'm out. I just thought of a line. Boom. I write it down. I put it to the side. And then I get enough of those, and then I collect it together, and then it's like an organization process. This is everything I've been thinking for X amount of time. Oh, this line relates to this line. And of course, now I'm keeping aware of rhymes. It's like this line rhymes with this and relates to this, and I can put all of this together, and eventually you have a verse. Usually when I like finish a verse, I like to transfer it to like my notebook, or like sometimes if I like have access to my notebook, I'd rather just like write it in my notebook, and like the repetition process of like, okay, I have this whole part. I do a lot of like saying it out loud. I guess on some level freestyling, like trying to catch a flow when I like have a beat. Okay, this is the flow I want to do. This is how the words fits. This is how the words feel. Cause I think I really value like I think that's what I value more than anything, like how the words feel in relation to each other. So that kind of allows me to like all right, I didn't really fucking rhyme here, but like they just feel nice. Like saying it out loud, it feels nice. My ears really enjoy that. And I think like that's kind of like the crux of my style. So it's a lot of like I think of like Skytrain, for example. That was like 3 hours of me endlessly going, old land changes lobby name to passcode, and then like slowly but surely piecing the whole thing together. So yeah, that's kind of my style. A lot of like saying it out loud, taking notes from like days ago, weeks ago, organizing it into like a full thought. And then once I have like a solid thought, I'll usually do like a demo real quick and just sit with the demo on like a shitty mic or whatever. And then that allows me to like, oh, I don't really like how this sounds. So when I do the final take, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna take out this word. Oh, if I add this word, it'll emphasize this. And yeah,
So a lot of it is like organizing your thoughts in the written patterns, and then hearing a beat, and then being inspired by the beat,
yeah,
feeling wise, and then trying to construct a rap based upon what that beat is bringing to
yeah,
you in relationship to how the beat feels, plus other thoughts that you've had in the past. Like
yeah,
I
exactly.
like that little like a Jenga Tetris type of
No,
approach, like
yeah, that's
pull
the
it and
perfect
pull,
way to
drop it.
describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's tight. And when it comes to poetry, you're just kind of writing and how you feel and
Yeah, I
such.
mean, I'd say it's pretty much the same thing where it's like there's still like even if I'm not thinking about rhyming, there's still like I want a direction. It's still like pieces of the puzzle. It's just I don't have a beat, so I don't have to think about the way the beat's making me feel. So it's strictly like these words are making me feel this, and I feel like this sentence should go after this sentence because it emphasizes this or it changes the meaning of this in the beginning if it's in this order. So it's the same idea, just like it's a big puzzle, putting puzzle pieces together.
Your writing in your style is also pretty abstract in a way that I call MCs like an open mic eagle who can take a concept and really write everything about it, and it has a clear through line. You understand exactly what they're getting at, and in a lot of ways, like everything's supposed to have this certain type of meaning behind it towards the point he's making. With you, I would say that your style is fairly abstract. It seems like I don't want to say loose thought association, but you're pulling from different perspectives, different ideas, and making it into this. It feels maybe mosaic is kind of a term that I might use, where all of these things are like different, but there's like the bigger picture when you zoom out. You know what I mean? What is it called
Yeah.
when you have like a bunch of little pictures, you move out and you could see like a larger picture? I don't know what the name of that is.
Um,
Some
no, I couldn't
whatever
tell you.
the term is, like what I'm trying to get at is like you are kind of a bit abstract in your writing. Would you say that that is correct, or am I just not listening in the right way?
No, no,
Okay.
I think I think you're no, no, you are right. I think a lot of it is like maybe for like it's like it's just the most interesting way. I don't know. I feel like when things are too literal, I get like kind of bored. I can appreciate writing like that. So I think there's like a time to be really to the point and poignant. I think of like think of like Woods, think of Elucid. There
Yeah.
are times where like, oh, Elucid is a perfect example where he's gonna say the thing. He's calling the landlord the Zionist, you
Right.
know. But throughout the rest of that, black mode, black lung, black child, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of images and ideas
Hmm.
here. And then when you have my landlord is a
Right.
Zionist, everything suddenly makes sense, you know. And I
Right.
feel like um, yeah, I guess I approach it in like a similar way. I'm from a similar school of thought. I think the poets we brought up, Amiri Baraka, Henry Dumas, June Jordan, the black
Yeah.
arts movements and how
Right.
they branched off, I think that was their strongest suit, where they
Yeah.
had like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then they have the line, and it's like, oh, this is the coolest poem ever, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I personally am a big fan. I know that like calling people like listen to again the conversation that we had about Ethiops with Spade. For a lot of people, being called abstract is kind of like a pejorative. You know, it means like
Yeah.
you don't like I think where's it he would say like word salad because you know he
Mm,
feels that he's not able to get something out of it. But for me, it's always been the opposite. Like sometimes those well crafted little bars all explode perfectly for me and I
yeah.
get something bigger out of it. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm getting exactly what the artist is really trying to say. Like if it really is like, oh, that's the Rosetta Stone of all of this. And now I understand all of it. But I get a lot of meaning out of just, just very, very whatever lines,
Yeah.
I'm the blackest metal when Elucid says some shit like that, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No,
and
yeah, exactly.
it's like, yeah, it's like I fucking get it. But yeah, I really am like I guess it's clear that Secret House is into that type of shit, and I champion it in a way. Would you
Mm.
say that Elucid is like one of your bigger, more contemporary inspirations?
He's the best rapper.
He's the best
He's the
rapper.
best. He's the best.
Okay,
Yeah, he's the one. He's that dude. Yeah,
okay.
I
Uh,
felt that way for like
rank
I
rank
think yeah. Mhm.
rank three probably top three Elucid joints for me then. It could be
Don't
Arm
play
and
it.
Hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, it could
Where
be
no,
Arm and
I
Hammer.
don't need no arm and hair. I don't even need
Okay,
it.
okay, okay.
Don't play it straight is peak music. It's so sick. Oh my gosh, so good. Now it gets difficult. I could put like
Okay,
six things
that's
at
number one
number
with the
two.
bullet. Okay, okay.
Yeah. I think as of late, I've been bumping Shit Don't Rhyme No More a lot. That's been like really inspiring lately. So maybe that'll be my number two. Um, and then number three is even hard because I feel like anything I say, there's so many projects I'm forgetting. Like I want to say Valley of Grace. Valley of Grace was probably my first
Yeah.
favorite Elucid project. I love I Told Bessie. I love Revelator. Revelator is so sick. I think I'm gonna put every egg, every egg. It's one of the Bandcamp release. Every egg I cracked was double yolk. It's like
Okay.
he raps on like two tracks, I think, and then there's like one track where he just chants and doing his thing, and then the last track on the album, he's like reading from I think a Gwendolyn Brooks like children's book, if I'm
Okay.
remembering right, about like I think it's called Aloneness. And it just makes me cry. And it's like, oh,
Mm.
this is so good. The beat's so good.
Mm.
The way this is mixed is like my brain agrees with this. So I think like those, but there's like so many. The EP he dropped before Save Yourself, that project super sick. Like I said, Valley of Grace is super sick. Yeah, there's he's the goat. He's
You
the
know,
goat.
for
That's not even
like,
getting into like
yeah,
Arm& Hammer shit, you
yeah,
know? Like, oh my, Elucid on Paraffin is like, how can you rap this good? Elucid on
yeah,
Shrine, it's just like, bro, I didn't.
yeah,
This shouldn't be legal. You should be able to just rap this
yeah.
good casually and just go about your life, you know?
Yeah, Elucid is he's amazing. Like I feel like you know, the first time I heard Betamax, I feel like it alleviated my depression for like a couple weeks.
No,
And
that
now like every time I go, like oftentimes we'll hold like these. There's a place called Soul Food House, and above it is called the Legacy
mhm,
Lounge. It's kind of like the black epicenter of Tokyo.
yeah,
But every time I go there to like host or have a discussion about politics or blackness or living abroad as like a black person, I always play that Betamax joint, and it just gets me supercharged. To me, that's my new national anthem with No Nation.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I always
Mhm,
put I told Bessie #1 just because even if it was only that song, I'm still picking that. That's like one of my. It's got to be like one of the top 10 songs of all time for me at this point. And
yeah,
Elucid is just so incredible at creating these things that, and you know, I'm a Marxist, and I don't believe in like metaphysics or the ethereal, but something about
mhm,
that shit just make me feel super connected to my identity as a
yeah,
person growing up in America, you know, black, mixed race, like my ancestors, and you know, all that shit. Betamax
mhm.
is the one. Yeah.
No,
But
yeah, I
yeah,
think
word.
that's probably why Lucid was my became my favorite rapper. He has this line on it's on Save Yourself where he's like, my mom said all I gotta do is stay black and die. And it was like, bro, the only person I ever heard say that before Lucid said that was my mother. So I was like,
Mm,
he's just like me for real.
yeah,
I'm locked in. I have to know every song from this dude,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, that's a fire choice for favorite artist, and I endorse it 100%. I would not argue with you. Uh,
Mm,
speaking of like your mother and your parents and such, it seems as you were raised pretty well. Dad's got you listening to Illmatic, mom's got the bars. Um,
mm.
but now I believe you mentioned in the past that you're a teacher or you work in the school system. Well,
Yeah. I work in an after school program at it's through my college. I go to Brooklyn College, after school program through there. I got in through a field work class and they fucked with me. So they're like, do you want to work here? I'm like, word, I would appreciate some money. So yeah, so I do that. It's probably like my second passion at this point. I'm grateful to find something that's like not as like waning money wise as underground rap could be that I could just
right.
like gravitate to and enjoy and things like that. But yeah,
What like age group are you? Did you say you're working with?
high school.
High school. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's got to be pretty interesting. I mean, you're not all that much older than them, but
Nah,
you're
it's like
also
yeah,
yeah,
it's like having like 15 younger siblings.
yeah,
You know, it's like we could like they're old enough where we could like shoot the shits on like some level, but then like sometimes you just gotta like sun them. You gotta be, all right, calm down.
yeah,
You know, you're doing a lot
yeah,
right now. Or like, whoa, don't say that. Let's think about things this way and things
yeah.
like that. And I feel like that's just like a nice, comfortable balance. I don't feel like they're calling me like I don't like when they call me like Mr. Shemar or whatever. It's like, no, I'm just Shemar, you know?
Okay, yeah, right, right. I mean, it's interesting, you know, working with youth. You know, I'm a teacher myself, but there's a language barrier. But even in the past, when I
Mhm.
was doing like community service work, and such, you know, I'd organize like I was in my 20s and I'm organizing, you know, church group, youth groups to do things, and it's like you always want to like project things that are, you know, respectable and not antisocial, and um show that you don't need to act you know, especially like in the West, is like you don't want to show like you like there's something outside of being gang banging and cool or trying to be like your favorite rapper, you know, things that are productive and not self-destructive or whatnot. And you want to give them that that respectability and that air conditioning, but you also want some of that radical agitation mixed in there, you know,
Yeah.
some of that like radical politics, that
Mhm.
pro liberatory politics, that anti-misogynist,
Yeah.
anti-homophobic, anti even capitalist things
Yeah.
in doses. But like,
Mhm.
I love a line on the new album. If I could get to it, hold on, I'm pretty sure I got it here. um should have been more militant, but can't tell my kids they worth more than their dreams. Want to be a
Yeah.
lieutenant, not going to tell her the best listeners make great enemies. Get that degree, do what thou wilt. And I obviously am not rhyming it like you, but I like this element of your writing, that some of that teacher shit seeps into it. Some of that,
Yeah.
you as a person seeps into it,
Yeah.
and that's interesting. Do your kids know that you rap?
Yeah, they do. For the fieldwork class, I had to do like an activity with the kids. And this is like when I think I released like my first EP like a couple months prior. So my activity was like I do karaoke with them. They did karaoke, and then I did karaoke with my own songs. I just rapped for them. I brought out my SP and everything. So yeah, they know. I don't
Were
know
they
how
like,
much.
yo, what the fuck is this? What is this shit?
Yo, I got like the it kind of reminds me of J. Cole. I was like, you know what? I'll take what I can get. Word. You didn't call it trash. I don't know how much they like because it's like honestly, it's very easy to find me. My name is Shemar. I rap under
Yeah.
Shemar. You look up Shemar. I think I'm slowly becoming the first Shemar to come up. When I beat Shemar Moore, that's when I
Yeah,
know I'm
that's
me.
the one. That's the one. We need to get him out of here. He go back
You
to
know?
NCIS or whatever he's doing. Yeah.
But one thing you brought up that I found interesting was just about like like sprinkling politics onto them and things like that. One thing I find really interesting about like working with kids is like you just using the term because it's just helpful in this specific sentence, but it's like the kids are woke. Like they know what's up, and it's like especially my kids. It's like they seem really interested in like more radical politics and learning
Yeah.
about it. And it's not like anything I presented to them. It's like they'll come to me and then they're like, "Oh, you mentioned this thing. I was thinking about X, Y, and Z," and then like on the notion of shooting the shits. We're just able to because they already have like baseline knowledge that like even when I was in high school, I was not, I wasn't thinking about Palestine
Right.
until like I started reading like QEP Newton, and then from there just reading more and more, and then like okay, why are two of my classmates arguing about Palestine and Israel, like what's happening here? But that was
Yeah.
like graduating college, I mean not college, graduating high school time. But the kids, it's like besides it just being more in their face, probably most likely because of COVID and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, I think there's just like I think I think kids have a natural inclination for these things, and I think they had more of an outlet to not only express that comfortably, but also just like explore that. Because if you have like a lot of my kids, they're from like Caribbean households, and kind of just the realities, their parents are like a bit more traditional for their own reason. Niggas come to America, we're trying to make money. It's like
Right.
you're gonna, we need to make money type thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I feel grateful just being like a place where they could like talk things out, explore these
Yeah.
things, have these thoughts, and not be like shunned away from like these thoughts, ideas, or whatever. And that stuff like that inspire like that whole song. Albany Ave is the I love my students song.
Okay. I mean, I find it uh quite optimistic when I see the children who are so concerned with just identity in a way. I think that that's a
Mhm.
good baseline to start your kind of radical trajectory. That's where I got my start, if I'm being completely honest. When I was 15, I became born God,
Yeah.
God body, and that's why I'm mega, master of quality, God
Mhm.
Allah, even though I don't have 5% politics whatsoever anymore. Back then
Mhm.
they were considered radical and useful, and now a lot of that shit is hotepery. It's
Yeah.
hotep. And a lot of the 5%ers that I was rocking with, I thought I was joining a kind of like esoteric fraternal order of poor righteous black educators, but it turns out I was just like rocking with gangsters who were serious about uh hating white folks for all of
Yeah.
the material conditions that they were in, and what we've been taught about ourselves. And I see these kids nowadays, and it's just like like we were calling people gay. Like
Yeah.
back then we were doing a lot of things, and now the youth are not on that. I had a buddy who moved out here, a white dude who moved out here, and he's a teacher in the Bronx. And I remember
Mhm.
asking him, I was like, yo, how those kids treat you, man? Now that you're a white dude, you're an outsider, you're going into these communities of, Black, Latino, Latinx communities as a white dude from whatever, you know, place that you're from, Connecticut, or and he was like,
Yeah.
yo, the kids don't care. the kids are they don't white boy me at all, like you white boy me. And I'm like, oh shit, I do be white boying people still, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, but that's really exciting to hear about. So I kind of to talk about politics a little bit, and I always kind of feel like this is a gotcha question for people, because I'm not necessarily sure people are as interested as as interested in politics as I am. But and me, I align myself with a kind of fairly specific few ideological descriptors, Pan-African
Yeah.
socialist. I'm a Marxist, and when I say
Yeah.
Marxist, I don't mean I'm an extreme formalist that believes that Marx has to be all of these things in terms of organizing politics. I just mean that I am a dialectical and historical materialist that uses that as my lens to describe the world and see the shifting constraints of historical necessity. Um,
Mhm.
all that to say, just like, yeah, I'm radical as shit. But do you have like a specific ideology that you would use to describe yourself?
I mean, really, and that's more so just because, like, I don't know. I think no matter how much I read, I've always like it's a space that like I don't feel confident enough to be like, yeah, I am this. I feel
Okay.
more confident, and that's like to me being a writer, I can be like,
Yeah.
I think X, Y, and Z, and I can express X, Y, and Z thought, but I don't think I have like a specific thing. That's mainly more just like a confidence thing. But I also just like I try to like take in a lot from like a lot of different like political views. Left leaning. I don't give a fuck about those niggas. I don't care about
Right. Right.
centrist or no, get that away from me. But and just like yeah, I guess I'm still honing it. I'm still figuring out like exactly how to define myself. On I guess on the notion of like you mentioning identity being like the first like your first point of like exploration. I feel like I'm still in that phase of like exploring my identity in all its
Yeah.
facets. So like I don't have a definite answer. I've been gotcha.
Well,
But
like,
yeah.
I'm also really not interested that in that as much if people are not trying to tell me that their
Mhm.
specific political ideology is what's right. And
Yeah.
if you're like, well, yeah, I'm a fucking anarcho syndicalist, or I'm a fucking free market libertarian, then I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
well, I know all about that ideology, we could discuss it point for point or whatever. Largely,
Yeah.
I don't believe that people need to be um academics, organic intellectuals, in order to be revolutionaries and do those type of things. But for me,
Mhm.
there are a lot of useful distinctions to make. I recall the Brian Eno's and Infinity Knives album just dropped, and they've been
Mhm.
doing for lack of a better term, like a press tour, being on
Yeah.
people's shows, discussing things. And it was Mandisi, it was Dark Cow, who posted something in the Discord where Brian was like, yo, fucking don't come to me with all that Maoist shit or Marx or whatever. And we were
Mhm.
kind of laughing at it, and I was just like, yeah, that's completely true. But one of the things that I concern myself when it comes to that type of thinking is that,
Mhm.
like, everything, it's useful to make those distinctions sometimes, because everything
Yeah.
tends to become subsumed by capital, to the point where
Exactly.
what you think is revolutionary is not all that revolutionary. It's just citing these kind of current, ahistorical even,
Mhm.
ideas about the way society should be structured. So
Yeah.
you saying like, fuck this politician, fuck this institution, fuck this nation state, is very easy to say as AOC or even some
No, absolutely.
Bernie Sanders. So while I
Mhm.
do while I do appreciate like Brian, and I hear the kind of left leaning rhetoric, and I think it's dope.
Mhm.
And I'm sure he probably is a leftist. I appreciate when somebody like Noname is like, "Yo, socialism, yo,
Yeah.
socialism, yo, not
Mhm.
not just these people suck, but yo, anti-capitalism." And
Yeah.
those are the things that. And when I was your age, I was I was what I would consider an ontological anarchist, and my
Mhm.
political ideology was all over the place. I was way more progressive than my other people, but the change between being an anarchist and a materialist to where I'm at now, a lot of that
Okay.
takes a lot of time and a lot of reading. And now that I'm in my 40s, like almost 42 years old, I find that when I'm talking to the youth who are really passionate about
Mhm.
these things, it serves me a great purpose to be able to be like, look, what you're talking about is this slippery slope of identity that walks you right into, I don't know, Afro pessimism. So you got to be careful with
Yeah.
that, because next thing you know, you'll see no horizon for Black liberation. You'll want to create
Yeah.
Black ethno states with capitalism.
Mhm.
So we got to figure some shit out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate. I hear the revolutionary zeal in your music, and especially when it comes to just being like a good person on our Discord, which
Yeah.
I wasn't always a maybe I'm still not a good person, but you know what I mean.
Oh,
Like it's good.
no, for
You're
me.
really killing it. You're really killing it with that. Uh,
No,
so
I appreciate that. I also appreciate what I think it's like I feel like there's always like a pressure to I feel a pressure to always like have an answer for like a question like that right now. And it's like sometimes I need to sit back and be like, I know I'm not literally a kid, but I'm also a
right.
kid, and there's like
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me like still figure I think I'm like slowly honing into like, oh, I don't think like Afro pessimism, for example.
Yeah.
It's like, word, I hear this, I fuck with some words that some people have
Yeah.
said that like
Yeah.
some of their thoughts lean into the direction of Afro pessimism, but like I know I'm not an Afro pessimist because like
Right.
my heart can't live in that
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
So it's like, but still finding like it's easy. I think in general, it's easier to be like I'm not this versus like I am
Yeah.
definitively this, and I
Yeah.
think I'm still like making those distinctions.
Well, I mean, I remain optimistic. I
Yeah,
have to believe the kids that you're working with, and not to call you a kid, but me and your dad is probably closer in age than
no,
me and you are
absolutely.
close. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, not to call you a kid, but like I just kind of remain optimistic. And one of the things that I don't do when I'm talking to people is be like, wait, what a second, like hell no, you're a liberal. I don't want to talk to you. Like I try
Yeah,
to meet. I'm almost certain I could have a conversation with MAGA cats and still bring them left, because
mhm,
a lot of these things are not exactly. It's not they're the product of their social construction, and you
yeah,
could almost tell what a person's going to think like or vote like just by their zip code. In the same way, you can tell
yeah,
where they're going to end up financially in that demographic
mhm,
just because they're zip code. So I always just try to treat people as individuals and be ruthless to systems or
yeah,
ideology. I'm not out here being like, oh my God, this person believes Israel has a right to defend itself, so they're a Nazi. I'm like, well, a lot of people believe that shit just the same reason you believe in God. It's like you were ideologically, you don't see outside of your you don't see outside of anything other than what you've been socially constructed to believe in, and people make hella mistakes. I mean,
yeah,
I have in the past when it comes to my views on whiteness. You know what I mean? Like I was looking at white folks around me and being like, yo, you owe me shit. You know what I mean? Like, yo, and it's like you grow out of it, man. Like, and I
mhm,
don't have sympathy for I don't have sympathy for people generally that have shit ideology, but I just do try to
yeah,
think of them as individuals and not like,
yeah,
it's easy to be like, you think like this, you're the devil to me, and you should go to
mhm,
jail or burn in hell. Or I'm just like, yo, like I think I could pull them to the side. You know what I mean? I think I
Mhm.
could get them. So keep reading, keep doing your shit. I don't want to get on like an old head teaching type of tip, but yeah, I think you what you're doing is dope and impressive, and I see you growing all the time.
I
Let's
appreciate that.
let's get into, oh, you know, one thing I wanted to give a shout out to is Money for Water also be one of those
Uh,
MCs who is
the goat.
very
Yeah.
very pointed
Mhm.
at being like, oh, I'm not just giving you bumper sticker raps. You know what I mean?
No,
This
not
ain't
at
bumper
all.
sticker shit. This ain't, you know, Killer Mike, you know, face paint on or some shit like that. Now, like, um, Money for Water, I really wanted to review that album last year that he did, but we just didn't get to it. I've been tremendously impressed with them. And like on your new album as well, just bombing.
Man. Yeah.
And they, I don't know what pronouns they use. I'm trying to get better at that with my old ass,
He
but all right, but
yeah.
he whatever he's doing, I'm just like, bro, you sprinkle the bombs all over the place and they're pretty clear and concise, but they're still
Mhm.
wildly poetic. And he
Yeah.
reminds me of like, he reminds me of, and not to diminish his style or approach, but there's a level that reminds me of his work like with like Navy Blue a little bit. But whereas people talk about Navy Blue catching that kind of like Gil Scott poetic lens,
Yeah.
Navy Blue has like that kind of like feeling emotional for love for black folks, but what Money for Water has that revolutionary zeal
Yeah.
that Gil
Mhm.
has, and that shit is tremendous. How did y'all link up? How do y'all know each other?
Um, honestly, I don't know if you're familiar with Eric the Young God. He's a YouTuber.
Yes.
He does
He be
reviews and
rocking
stuff.
a bonnet all the time, right? That's like
Yeah, yeah,
his thing. Yeah, I've heard of him.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he did like some 10 artists you need to know or some shit. And then Money for Water was one of them. This was before Money for Water dropped his first album. The song was Protection. And I was like, Money for Water is a fire name. So I'm gonna listen to this song just off the string. And it felt like I got punched in the face because it was like, yo, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Where's the album? So I went
Yeah.
searching for him. I found his IG. He didn't have an album out at the time. So it was like, word, cool. He dropped his first album a day before I dropped my first EP. We were following each other. So I was like, yo, this is fucking nuts. And then a
Yeah.
couple days later, he hit me. He was like, yo, your EP's fire. I would buy beats for you, but I'm broke right now. And I was like, he's like the first dude to ever hit me for beats. So I was like, what do you buy beats?
Yeah.
Come get this folder, bro. What are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
talking about? And then that kind of like started our relationship, friendship. A lot of those like early like Beacon, what else is on the album? Atlas, Surveillance. There's one more. Council. I think those four were like the first four that we did, just like off that first beat pack. And then from there, it slowly became Traveling Light. But yeah, and then um, you hop on like my shit. I have a couple joints that are just like on sitting around with like the two of us. But yeah, that's how we got to know each other. We met a couple times. He's from Charlotte, but he's come up here a couple times.
Okay.
We've hung out at school. He's good people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've introduced me to a lot of artists that I think are super dope. Like Hester's super dope. I J Cinema, I think I learned about through you. Of course, I think maybe you told Sun Mundi to come into our Discord, but I feel like you two were both pretty early artists in there. So I would say you
Mhm.
introduced me to Sun Mundi, who is insane as
Yeah,
well. And
yeah.
your track with Sun Mundi, Mic Check, man, I still go. That was my most listened to
Much
song
love.
last year. Like that beat, like some reason it make me feel extremely hip hop, like b-boy, like arms crossed, like yeah, ain't nobody fucking with me today. Like, you know,
Mhm,
like that's like my 3-6 Mafia tear the club up type of shit, even though I just be walking around Tokyo. But yeah,
mhm.
that's one of my favorites. Your production is really insane as well. Are you still, are you how can I say, are you still using just like a 404, or have you purchased new equipment, or what is your production setup?
Yeah. I mean, it's just Ableton now. think like all of the beats that are like out there and exist in the world. The 404 is really just like to get the basics. High key, I regret the fuck. I would never recommend anyone making beats on the SP 404. Not the Mach 2 is sick, but the OG
Okay.
404, the SX,
Yeah.
that shit fucking sucks.
No,
But
I got even the
the
older
del-
one than that. I just got the basic
yeah,
SP404. Yeah.
no, bro. I
Yeah.
delete glitch actually. He has the 404 and he makes his beats off of there. And it's like
Yeah.
he's a trooper. His
Yeah.
beats are I don't even have like the patience for it anymore. So I'm
Yeah.
just on Ableton. But I've just like figured out like slowly but surely because there's like I think what I'm most interested in when it comes to beats is texture. Like mic check
Yeah.
is an example.
Yeah.
I got that shit distorted in OD and
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm cooking.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's
Yeah.
like it was just once I figured out how to get the textures I wanted through Ableton, it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going with that.
Okay. Let's get into the new album some. Like one of the things that surprised me about the new album Emerge and See is that well, let me let you tell me a little bit about emergency. The title it seems to be wordplay for emergency. What
Yeah.
it drops May 2nd, which is a few days from now. It's the 24th as we record this. What's
Mhm.
going on with that? What tell me all about give me the album rollout and all that.
Word. Okay. Where do I begin? I guess I'll begin with Outside House. Outside House is the core of the album. I heard of Outside House through Hester's album. I knew of Hester. We started talking. He was like, "Oh, you want to hear my album?" Like maybe a couple weeks before it come. I was like, "Sure." Never knew Outside House. I just heard the. I was like, "What the fuck are these beats? What? Who did this?" He's like, "Oh, Outside House." I eventually got into contact with Outside House. They sent me a pack. I remember it was election day 2023, so this was like
Mm,
my first album was dropping in a week, so I had my first album done and it was about to drop. Sunscreen was written and recorded, maybe also mixed at that point. So it was like I started the album maybe a day or two later. Emergency, I mean. um the first songs I did were Ethereal and I'm Not a Doctor, and then it was
okay.
already like there's something here, there's something interesting here going on here. Um, so yeah, and then like I guess just like receiving the reception of Obtuse Ways and eventually Sunscreen, and it was like simultaneously I was going through like a really tumultuous time. I had like something personal happen and like still recovering from, but it's like that time was like when it was really hitting, and I was just like crashing out and writing to like the Outside House joints. Like a majority of the album was like drafted in like about a month, like November to
Oh,
December 2023, and then I spent like the early half of 2024 being like, okay, I can't like I guess I started thinking about like shock value. um Kendrick Lamar has the album Mr. Morale. I don't like Mr. Morale. When I think of Mr. Morale, I think of Auntie Diaries and I think of him like using the F slur, and it's like I think of when people were like, "Hey, this wasn't really cool," and then of other people like, "Oh, you just don't get it." He's like comparing it to the N word, and it's like, no, we get it. And just
right.
like kind of like the talking down. I was thinking a lot about that, and it made me think of like shock value because I feel like that was a moment for shock value, and it felt like when I was first drafting the album, there were lines there that was like, "This is true, but this is shocking." And am I saying it more
Mm,
for it being true or it being shocking? And it was
mm,
like I have this practice I do where I share all my demos with my girlfriend. I do a demo, word, boom, I get her feedback. And it was to the point in which it's like I can't share this with her. She's not gonna like this. And then once I like realized that and I had conversation with Delete Glitch, actually, that's when we started becoming cool. And I think him talking about it with him and like more so me calming down to like crashing out that one month, it really like allowed me to like focus up and like do like a lot of the non-outside house joints and like fix up some of the lyrics and like really, I guess, refine the world a lot more. I had the blueprint, but it was kind of directionless. And then once I like calmed down, sat, and was like, I have something interesting here, but what is the
mm,
interesting thing? I think I really figured it out with the title. Um, I just wanted to call it Emergency Raps at first because I was like, I'm gonna do a little EP over these weird beats. But then I think like Twami, the producer, has like a
shout out to
series.
Twami. Yeah.
Yeah, he has like a series called Emergency Raps. Like I know he has one with like Fly
Yeah.
Anakin, Constant Jackson, and I was like, well, I can't like jack that. And then I just Emergency made me think of like, oh man, if everything about me comes out, I was like, I deserve to get like punched in the face, but I also need to like be better, and I need to go and see, and yeah, just a lot of thoughts surrounding that. So that's where the title came from and shit, and like the basics of the album.
It's a dope twist on the term on the word. I was like,
Yeah.
for some reason my brain didn't put it together because on my
Mm-hmm.
phone when I was I tried to download the album off the link you gave me, but for some reason the files weren't opening for me, so I've been listening to
Oh
it
shit.
on the one streaming link that you gave me, and when it shows up
Okay.
it says emerge N and then it says C, and so
Yeah.
for some reason in my head it was disconnected as
Mm.
emergency until
Yeah.
I wrote it in my phone, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't
Oh
know
yeah, and
why
it's
I'm an
also
idiot."
like the
Yeah,
Toys R Us thing. I just like fucked
yeah,
with that. So I was like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to do the reverse N on the on the phone. It's just I was like, yeah, I just do the regular shit. But no,
Oh yeah.
it's a really interesting project, and as you said, it's primarily produced by Outside House, but you've got production by some of your other like homies and collaborators. Sasko's on there, Millennium, who just released something dope too. Big Flowers, Bloom Cycle rather,
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro as well, who I'm not
Mm.
super familiar with, but hard.
No,
Um,
Kilimanjaro's sick. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, all of the production on is dope. You've got some MCs on there. J Cinema, Yo OG, Hester Valentine, Def C, shout out, Money for
Mm.
Water, and Delete Glitch. So it's a really dope album, and I'm still processing it. And
Mm.
usually when I think about albums, like the way I discuss them on Secret House, I really have to sit with them and make my notes to have like really what I think about them. Otherwise, I'm just like, oh yeah, that song was dope. I don't remember that one. Oh, that was dope.
Mm.
So I would like to do a review on the album. Hopefully, we're just
Okay.
kind of falling off. So I'm still processing a lot of it, but I do have some questions about things.
Mm.
On this album, what's you said you were going through something, a significant type of life situation. Is that like the biggest difference between this project and the way you wanted to execute it writing wise, like this idea of the shock value? Or did you like, I don't want to say it sounds terribly different than your other stuff, but it does. Like
Mm.
many of these songs, they do kind of lack a melody. A lot of it is very texture driven,
Yeah.
and it like almost like, I don't want to say soundscapey, but it's like, yeah, there's like no melody on some of these. It's just you kind of bombing in a space. Like what
Mm.
is that's my question. What's different about you on this project?
Mm. I think I actually had a conversation about this with a friend recently. I think because of what I was going through personally and just like I wanted to take rapping more seriously and I wanted to just grow as an artist. I think I had to put like a necessary barrier between like Shemar the rapper and like Shemar Anthony Alexander the human being. And it's like Shemar the rapper pulls from Shemar Alexander, but it's like there's a separation there. And I think with this project I like established the separation. So I'd say like that's the biggest like I guess mentality difference that led to like the differences on the track. Like I think a lot of these are like my darkest songs and songs that make me feel like fucking miserable when I like listen and I think about the lyrics too hard. But it's like I cried on Drew Street. I don't ever want to cry on a track. I can cry live, if I'm like feeling it in the
Yeah.
moment. But it's like, no, the separation is like I'm not gonna cry on this track. I'm gonna say it how it is and say it how it needs to be said. So I think that was a big thing in my approach. And I think like with a lot of this album, one thing early on into me rapping that like one thing my friend said to me was that she always wished that I would like rap a little bit slower because I say so many words and so many ideas and she's like I literally just can't keep up. So a lot of this project there was like it was like personal challenges like on some like video game shit. Like I'm
Mm,
not a doctor was like I heard the beat and I was like I want to just like rap really slow, like a lot slower than normal. So just like that lets me and just use like minimal words. So that was like the challenge for I'm Not a Doctor. And then it became the actual track. I think like Sore Crest, the first track, also spawned from that. And there were other joints where it's like, I want a hook. I want to like a cool hook that I fuck with. And that's how you get like Foxhole. That's how you get fighting. And then yeah, it was just like having like little challenges, but also like, wanting to write good, just holding myself to a standard, having a challenge, and then trying to execute it, seeing what happens.
Do you feel like this is your best work yet?
Oh, he's like, this is the
Yeah.
best thing I've ever done in my life. I
It's
don't
fire.
know
I'm
how
quite
the
happy with
fuck
it. Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
gonna
think it's
top
amazing.
this. Much love.
You will. But yeah, it's amazing. So like I especially love the last two tracks. What is that? Albany Ave and what is it? Location Origin? Is that it?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, the title track and location origin. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Tell me a bit about Albany Ave. Like, is that like
Mhm.
the street that your school is on, or
Yeah, that's the street
okay,
that the school I work in. It's on
okay,
Albany. For all of my projects, I just always have a track named after a street. This is like the thing I do. That track was that was pretty late into the process. That was one of the last tracks I finished writing. There's not really an interesting story to it. Originally the verse or like parts of the verse were on an outside house beat, but then it just didn't feel right. So I like just had those lines sitting there. I had more lines about my kids. Kill has this big ass beat pack, and then when I get bored, I just kind of listen through the beat pack because it's like, oh, you're the best producer ever. Oh my gosh,
word, word.
And
Yeah.
that beat was just sitting there, and I was like, can I have this beat? He was like, yeah, and I rapped to the beat, and then
I
I sent it outside house. Outside house was like, this is hard. I was like, cool, track is done. There's not too much
you know,
to it.
like I was saying earlier, I was God body. I was a 5%er, and whenever I hear somebody say numbers in succession, I always think of the supreme
Oh,
mathematics.
word.
And so, what
Mhm.
is the significance of 1, 2, 4? Because I'm hearing that and I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this is for the youth and shit. Like you don't always have to have
Yeah.
understanding to build culture. And you add this
Mhm.
up, it's God. Like I'm always thinking of that as numbers, just because I'm
Yeah.
programmed myself to do that. But what is the significance of 1, 2, 4?
So my best friend, one of my best friends, Grace, she would instead of saying I love you, she would say 1, 2, 4. It's supposed to be like I don't it's not Morse code. It's some shit. It's some code thing. 1, 2, 4 is supposed to mean I love you. I type forgot it.
Ah,
But on the notion, it's funny that you bring up like it adding up to God because like her favorite number is 7. She's the one specifically saying emergency at the end of that track. So it's low key like just like a nod to her and things
okay.
like that. I try when it comes to like the emergency tags, I try to be really intentional about like what friend is on what track, and it's like that felt really fitting in like a personal way. And then also just like I feel like, being a teacher, there's a degree of separation that you have with the kids. So it's like knowing they're not going to hear that. If they do hear it, I'm going to say 1, 2, 4. They don't need to know it means I love you. But like, the sentiment's there, you
Dope,
know.
dope. Yeah. What is your favorite song on the project? I know
This is
they're
a
all your
hard ass
babies. I know
question.
they're all your
Yeah.
babies, but yeah. Do you have a favorite?
Lately, my favorite songs as of recently are probably Hero Pond and Destroy Build Destroy. Hero Pond is just like I got that beat. I was like, this beat is stupid. What the fuck?
Mm.
And then I wrote my verse like
Is
an
that the
hour
one with
after I got the
Yo
beat.
OG on it? Hero
Yeah,
Pond? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Fire.
then it just sounded like this Hero Pond is like a reference to my favorite game series, Blade Chronicles. Sounded like the sample was saying Hero Pond. One of the characters in the game is like the Hero Pond. So I was like, word, I fuck with that. Cool. And then like Yo OG hit me for like a completely unrelated reason, like right after I wrote that. And I was like, yo, do you want to be on this? And he's like, this beat is weird as shit. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do. And then he like sent the craziest verse back. So it's
Yeah.
like it's just really cool because he's like normally on like super, I guess like traditional sense shit, but like traditional in like the like the mic traditional sense, and I use that
Right.
term like super duper loosely, but you're like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, you know. So
Yeah.
hearing him on like this weird ass fucking beat is just like, I love it so much, and he's just still
Yeah.
going just as hard as he would on like anything else, you know. So that meant a lot to me. And then Destroy Build Destroy is like, that's the
That's
song I
some more
listen
God
to when,
body shit. That's some more God body shit. See, I mean, I can't
that's
think outside of it. Yeah.
not even, that's like
Yeah.
on Cartoon Network for like in like the early 2000s they had this, or not early but like the mid 2000s, they had like just like what am I, like live action shows, like they were like fuck cartoons, and then one of the live action shows was called Destroy Build Destroy, and it was
Oh,
just
tight.
like, yeah, you would like, they would like break a building, and then they'd build a car from the shit from the building, and then they would race, and whoever wins won, cool, whatever, and then they would just destroy everything.
Oh,
And
that's
then
tight. That's better
yeah,
than the
I just
God body shit.
but
Yeah.
nah, yeah, so I just fucked with that, and then that track is just like me being a trash dude. Like, I hope my ex never hears that. Because I'm
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah.
And it
Same.
just felt
Same.
like the epitome of the crash out. And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna name this Destroy Build Destroy. And then like Bagel, that's like one of my closest friends. And that's like one of my favorite verses from them. It's like they just matched the energy so perfectly, and it just went off. And it's like, yeah, that song just means a lot to me on a lot of levels. And of course, Millennium is like such an amazing producer.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, when I got that beat, I was like type lost as to where I was going next on Emergency. And I knew of Millennium. We like followed each other, but they just randomly hit me and was like, yo, I made this beat. Can I just give it to you? And it was that beat. And I was like, why,
Tight.
what? You know, this is
Yeah.
unbelievable. Thank you. You know, so it's like perfect timing type thing. So that just means a lot to me, you know?
It's escaping me right now, but Millennium sent me their album, I think last month, and it's
Mhm.
fire. The newest project is
Is it
fire.
the one with a ghetto philosopher?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
ghetto philosopher is the best rapper.
Yeah.
He's the like no
Yeah.
funny shit. He's like the
Yeah.
best rapper ever. He's
Yeah.
so different. He's not
Yeah.
normal. I'm like
S-
the biggest ghetto philosopher fan. He's sick.
It's so crazy to me. There's so much talent everywhere. Like
Mhm.
I hear art, like I'll hear an artist that like I never heard of before and be like, who the fuck is Miles Cook, bro? Like, who is
Oh,
this guy?
bro.
Who is this? This dude is
Yeah.
crazy, you know, like Hester too.
Mhm.
Like, who is this? I mean, I did the same with you and some Mundi and so many others. So yeah, it's yeah, I'm really looking forward to the reception that you get with the album. Congratulations again. That shit
Oh,
is
much love.
amazing. And man, we have not been reviewing shit for the last several weeks. I don't think we did an
Yeah.
album review this month. I need to really get on it, but I'm also going through a little bit of a mental kind of
Yeah. I hear you.
spiral. So, well, we'll figure
Mhm.
it out. I
Any
remain
love.
optimistic. The God is agile. Um,
Mhm.
Rapman Gavin, shout out to Rapman Gavin. He wants to know how you linked up with Sasko,
Yeah.
because you guys
Um,
tour, you guys do a lot of shows together, right?
yeah, Sasko's my DJ. I'm not performing if Sasko's not on stage with me.
Oh, word.
You know. But yeah, we met through Sun Mundi. I'm the biggest Sun Mundi fan. Ask him yourself. I'm the first big Sun Mundi fan.
Tight.
And then he put out The Man in the Fly, and Sasko produced it. And I was like, who's this dude? This is fucking sick. I just followed him, he followed me back. He hit me, he was like, yo, I want to send you beats. And I was like, word, cool. He sent me some beats. Eventually we landed on Mementos. That's the intro for Obtuse Ways. And you know, we went from there. He lives in the city, so we like link up on occasion. We see each other at shows and shit. And then for my first show, I didn't want to DJ myself. I didn't feel like confident enough, so I asked him to DJ for me. And then went really well. It was a lot of fun. So from there, it was just like we just built up a rapport, got to know each other, became good friends, and then yeah, just built from there.
Yeah.
Now he's giving me Origin, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, incredibly talented and how can I say, like interesting producer. Seems like
Mhm,
outsider hip hop production type of shit.
mhm,
Like a lot of Sasko stuff reminds me of the kind of old trip hop IDM type of hip hop days of like Prefuse 73, early Daedalus,
mhm.
old Machine Drum, like incredibly talented. The
Yeah.
hottest year on record. Yeah. fire.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so yeah, everybody who's listening to this, go check out that album, and we also had a discussion about it.
mhm,
I have another question from the community from Sun Mundi. He wants
yeah.
to know your favorite song to perform, and
Mhm.
how has performing shaped the way you make music, if at all.
Um, at this point, definitely, I'm not a doctor. The hook, new problems to solve. I'll just like yell that to like the maximum extent. It's like scream therapy type thing. It's super cathartic. Um, I would say I think like performing it allowed me to like loosen up. I perform like a lot of my tracks with like just a looseness because like I don't know, breath control is hard and it's a lot harder to do what I do on a track when I'm like saying it with a lot more oomph. And I think in turn that let me like Mo Better Blues off of, this album, or like I'm Not a Doctor the way it is on this album. It wouldn't exist if I didn't perform, if I didn't have live performance, because I wouldn't have like
Mm,
the confidence to just yell into a mic, worry about mixing later, you know? So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think it made me like I've been like more aware about like being dynamic vocally, even when I do like sunscreen joints. There's like a lot more dynamics to the live performances now, and I'll listen back to the tracks and be like, I mean, it still works that I said it this way, but it's like I think the way I perform it is a lot cooler now.
mm. That's what's up. You should
Mhm.
record a live album. Yeah,
I want to.
yeah.
I've been thinking about it. One day I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Get your set real tight, you know what I mean? And then just
Yeah.
hit us all with all the hits, live version. That would be fire. I feel like a lot of cats don't do that enough. Like I would
Mhm.
love I've not had the opportunity to watch Woods or Lucid perform, and I always hear that
Mhm.
their performances are incredible.
Unreal.
And especially when it
Unbelievable.
comes to a Lucid who does
Mhm.
have this dynamic range with his voice and whatnot. I would love to hear a really nicely mixed live set from him,
Yeah.
just to check out, or even video would be fire. But you know what I mean? Like more people need to get on that, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, but
Mhm.
yeah, I want to thank you again for sharing and rocking with me. I do have a variety of questions that I'd like to ask you, just kind of like quick fire ones, and we can go off on
Yeah.
tangents about them or whatever before we get out of
Mhm.
here. But I'll just do that now, if that's
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
What was the first movie you remember watching?
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Okay,
There's
fire.
a movie theater that used to be by me. It closed down type recently, but I went with my dad, my younger brother, I believe he was there, but I mainly remember my grandmother being there. And it's like I don't remember. I could count on my fingers how many times I remember seeing her like outside of her house. So it's like that
Mm.
just super sticks out to me. But yeah.
I watched that movie with my daughter last year, and I was like, "Yo, this works for me. I'm okay with Shark Boy and Lava Girl."
Ah, Short Boy Lava was hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it sounds. I mean, those are dope rap. Like, they could be a rap crew, and I'd be like, "Yo, I'll fuck with Shark Boy and Lava Girl." Yeah, easily.
Mm,
What about some of your favorite hip hop albums of all time? And since you gave me, three Elucid, let's leave Elucid off of the list. But some of your
word.
other favorite hip hop albums of all time.
Um, Flower Boy, I was so confident I wouldn't like Flower Boy anymore, but I had to listen to it for Next Movement, and I like, okay, no, Flower Boy is peak. Definitely, like some rap songs from Earl, the whole time. I love Illmatic. I know I was
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
earlier, I was like an Illmatic. No, I Illmatic is fucking peak.
yeah, yeah.
Um, why am I blanking on the first Mob Deep? That's so crazy. What the fuck?
Survival of the fittest. Is that it?
It's not. It does. It's a song on there. What? It. What?
Um,
Oh
the
my.
infamous is number
Yeah,
two.
Infamous.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I love that
infamous.
album.
Yeah. You're in New
Um.
York, yeah. You have to, like, yeah,
Yeah.
undoubtedly, yeah, yeah.
Um. What else? What else? There's just too man on even on the notion of like things that have been inspiring me, like for Emergency, for example. Fucking Metal Lung is
Uh,
top three backwards, and
yeah.
it's not three. Metal Lung is so good.
I got to go back to that.
Trapdoor.
Yeah,
It's yeah, unbelievable shit. I don't Church is my favorite Woods album. I think Church is
same,
so sick.
same.
Um, yeah. Oh my goodness, Preaching in Havana from Fatboy Sharif.
Okay.
That's my favorite Fatboy Sharif album. I love No Face's production. Shout outs
Yeah,
Gang for being the
yeah.
GOAT and also mastering my album, but also just
Oh
being the
yeah.
GOAT.
Shout out to Gang. Yeah,
Shook
Gang is
World. I've
amazing.
been listening to Shook World so much, and it's like, yo, this is unbelievable music.
It's a masterpiece.
Um,
It's like an experience that
mhm,
project. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Fucking what about when I say best writer in rap, who do you think? Elucid? I feel
yeah.
like a lot of these answers best voice in rap, Elucid.
I
Weirdest
could think
MC
of
style or Elucid. Yeah, go off though.
actually
Yeah.
no. I could think of like the you said the best voice in rap.
Yeah. Well, I mean like your favorite by best, you know what I mean? Like your
My
favorite
favorite.
like
No, no, okay, it's probably Lucid.
okay.
It's probably Lucid.
Yeah, yeah.
But like the weirdest like styler or whatever. Um, I think of obviously you think of like Fatboy Sharif, but I also think of like Open Mike Eagle. I feel like Open Mike, he just like there's just something about him. There's like his aura that's
Yeah.
just like, yo, you're different. I remember I was talking with Hester and he was like, who's like the rapper that people wouldn't normally associate with you that has like the biggest influence on you? I was like Open Mike Ego and Elzai, you know?
Mm,
So it's like, yeah, shout out to them.
yeah, both incredible. Open Mike Eagle
Mhm,
is very idiosyncratic,
mhm.
charming, insightful. Like he's got it all when it comes down to it. He's
Yeah.
got wordplay, he's got it all. Open Mike Eagle is truly one of the greats um
Mhm.
of all time. For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I love Open Mike Eagle. Listening to him kind of upsets me with how easy he makes everything seem. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, yo, bro, are you just freestyling right now? Because I know you're that good, like at just doing
Mhm.
this. But what about a dream collaboration? Like if you could collaborate with, let's say, any living person in an album, who would it be? A Lucid? No.
Uh, yo, Loki, Elucid, but like production specifically.
Sure.
I think
Okay.
Elucid's an
Okay.
insane producer.
You're right.
But
Yeah.
like other think about Yasin Bey a lot lately. That'd be
Okay.
fucking sick. I think he's so
Okay.
sick.
Yeah.
I actually open Mike Eagle. I think open Mike
Okay.
Eagle's cool as shit. Um, Shrapnel, but no comment. But like Shrapnel,
Yeah.
yeah, just like mad at the backwoods cats are like super fucking.
I
Oh
feel
my
like
goodness,
those are very
scratch,
possible for you.
yeah, but
Maybe not
scratch,
Yassine, like that's a little bit crazy, but yeah. Yeah.
scratch all of that. You know Amani?
Uh Amani Omar, or is that the
Nah, Amani. It's just Amani. He has an album
okay.
with King Vision Ultra called An Unknown Infinite.
Imani from what is the crew name? There was an Imani way back in the day in the 2000s. This is like a newer artist.
I guess he'd be newer, relatively newer.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Okay, maybe I don't
20.
know
Yeah.
Imani then.
Okay, I'll send you the thing. But yeah,
Okay.
Amani is like so fucking sick. He's so cool. I would love to like have a joint with him. I know have a joint with like Rama through like Sasco, but like more with Rama would
Uh,
be really cool on like a
Ra-
non outside of the context of like Sasco putting us together. Because I think like there's someone else that's like deeply inspiring to me.
yeah. Um Joshua Virtue is Dead Black Box last year is it made me cry. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
So
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah,
good.
super talented Rama. Um let's see. What about your favorite thinkers, philosophers, poets, writers, anybody like that?
Mm. Um, well, I mean, throughout emergency, Joy James is like littered throughout emergency. I find Joy James really interesting on the notion of like maybe not quite Afro pessimism, but like can be Afro pessimist at times, but just like that interesting dynamic. Really admire Joy James. A lot of the Black Arts Movement artists, Amiri Baraka, Henry Dumas, Sun Ra, James Baldwin, June Jordan. I go Tony Morrison. I can go on. I read Wretched of the Earth for the first time last year. I've really been fucking with Octavia Butler. Yeah, just Bunch of niggas,
Oh yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, word life. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Shoot, man. I don't know. I feel pretty happy just to have you a part of the community, and I feel extremely privileged to get your album early and to rock with you in the way we do. I'm looking forward to seeing your progression and your growth as an artist and as a human being. And yeah, I think people are gonna love this album. I think people are gonna really
I'm
fuck with
hoping
this one.
so. Please
And
give me money.
yeah, word life. I got you on a Bandcamp tip. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But yeah,
love,
yeah.
love.
All love, man. Where can I guess we'll wrap up. We're almost about like an hour and a half in. So where
Uh,
can people find you for where's the best place for people to touch base with you or all that type of stuff?
Um, IG Shamar.Alexander. My ex Twitter, whatever. It's Shamar_AA. I think. Um, I don't know. Just my music. You probably learn a lot more about me, my music, than like actually talking to me. Or like a lot quicker.
I'll put your link tree in the bio in the body
I
of the thing.
appreciate that.
What's the reason that you just went with Shamar for your rap name?
Um, I think my name is fire. My name is like the combination of my parents' names. It means like the love between Shemaine and Mark. So I was like,
Okay.
yo, Shamar meaning love. That's gas. So I'll just flip that 20 times, Shamar meaning this, Shamar meaning that. Um, yeah, and I don't know. I feel like if someone called me like some other name, I'd get like deeply uncomfortable. Remember in middle school, I had like one of those like internet names and it was just Ace. And then like my best friend in real life was calling me Ace, and I was like, this is sickening. I can never do this again. So
Okay. See, I only keep it to superhero names. Yeah, like when I moved out here, I got a gaming clan, and they're all a bunch of like a diverse international group of people. And my
mm,
gaming name is Worst Person, so all of them call
mm,
me Worst. And even that, I'm just like, we'll be out in public and be like, "Yo, Worst," and I'll be like, "I'll take it, I'll take it." Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
oh,
word.
word. Yeah.
But much love to you, yo. Live 1,000 years, and I'll end us here.